Welcome back, Munsters! If you're watching this video, then that means that you've watched our first video on compare and contrast, and you've also completed the worksheet. And so what we're going to do now is go through the worksheet together and see what answers you got. And so problem number 1, we are comparing two different Munsters. We're talking about our teal Munster and our yellow and green Munster. So that first thing that we're going to fill out is the middle section where the two circles are overlapping. And so I'm going to give you a second to check your work and get everything pulled up so that you're ready to go. So now that you've had some time to get your stuff together, let's get started with our similarities. So the first thing that I have in this section is that both of these Munsters have fur. Both Munsters have fur. And so that is the word from the word bank that's filled in for these similarities. Now, they both also have eyes. Both of these Munsters have eyes. And then they have one more thing in common, and that is hair. Both Munsters have hair. Now let's look specifically at our teal Munster. What are the characteristics of our teal Munster? I'm going to give you some time to look back over your work. And the first thing that I pulled from the word bank is purple hair. This Munster has purple hair. What else does this Munster have? Teal fur. This Munster has teal fur. And finally, one more thing that the teal Munster has is black eyes. This Munster has black eyes. Now, when we look at the other side of our Venn diagram, we're talking about the yellow-green Munster. And so I'm going to give you a few seconds. Get yourself ready to go through this section with me. So the yellow-green Munster. The first thing that I pulled from the word bank is blue and black eyes. This Munster has eyes like the teal Munster, but the yellow-green Munster has blue and black eyes. Now, what else does this yellow-green Munster have? Yellow-green fur. And so this Munster has fur like the teal Munster, but it is a different color. It's yellow and green. And finally, there's one more difference that this yellow-green Munster has. And do you guys know what it is? Orange hair. This Munster has hair, but it's orange. Whereas our other Munster, the teal Munster, has purple hair. And so Munsters, I'm going to give you some time to make sure that you have what I have from the word bank, and then we're going to move on with problem number 2. So now we're on problem number 2 of our worksheet. And for this one, we're going to compare and contrast our pink Munster and our yellow-green Munster. So let's start looking at the similarity section of our Venn diagram. And from the word bank, the first thing that I pulled was that both of these Munsters have 2 teeth. They both have 2 teeth. What else do they have in common? They both have hands. They both have hands. So we include that in our similarity section of our Venn diagram. And finally, they have one more thing in common. And that is they both have hair. Both the pink and the yellow-green Munster have hair. But let's look specifically at our pink Munster to fill out the next part of our Venn diagram. So you're going to look at the part of your Venn diagram where we're specifically talking about the pink Munster and how it is different, how it contrasts from the yellow-green Munster. So what was the first thing you pulled from the word bank? Hair bow was the first thing that caught my eye because the pink Munster has a hair bow. What else does the pink Munster have from the word bank? Yellow-green hands. The pink Munster has yellow-green hands. And there's one more thing that you should have from the word bank. Let's see. Munsters, did you guys write down or pull down from the word bank that this pink Munster has polka dots? The pink Munster has polka dots. So that was the section of our Venn diagram where we're just looking at the pink Munster. But now let's look at our yellow-green Munster. And so we've talked about the similarities, we've talked about the pink Munster, but let's look at the yellow-green Munster. So I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to make sure you're on the same section as me. The yellow-green Munster. The first thing I pulled from the word bank was that Munster has orange hands. It has hands like the pink Munster, but it has orange hands. The next thing that I have is ears. This yellow-green Munster has ears. And there's one more thing that you should have for your yellow-green Munster, and that is antennas. This Munster has antennas. And so Munsters, you have now completed problem number 2, and so we will be moving on to problem number 3. Here we are now, Munsters, problem 3. And so the very first section that I filled out on this Venn diagram is the section where all 3 circles overlap. And the things that I have written down, the characteristics for all of the Munsters, what they have in common is eyes. All of these Munsters have eyes. All of these Munsters also have fur. They all have fur. And the final thing that all 3 of these Munsters have is hair. All 3 Munsters have hair. So now what we're going to do is look more specifically at one of these Munsters. And so the first Munster that we are going to be looking at is, and you're following along my Munsters on your paper, we're going to be looking at the pink Munster. This is how the pink Munster is different from the other Munsters. So we are contrasting the pink Munster from the other Munsters. So the words that I pulled from the word bank, let's see, yellow hair. This pink Munster has yellow hair. What else does the pink Munster have? Eyelashes. The pink Munster has little eyelashes. And the final thing, or the final characteristic of this pink Munster is pink fur. And so that is our completed section for the pink Munster. Now let's move on to our yellow-green Munster. So now we're focusing on describing the yellow-green Munster and how it is different from our other 2. And so the first thing that I pulled from the word bank is that this Munster has antennas. This yellow-green Munster has antennas. And so make sure you're following along with me. And the next thing that this Munster has, orange hair. This Munster has orange hair, and it also has yellow-green fur. And now you're done describing the yellow-green Munster and how it contrasts from the other 2, but we've got one more. We've got our teal Munster. So when we look at the teal Munster, what do we notice that it has? What are its characteristics? Well, from the word bank, I noticed that this Munster has 5 teeth. It has 5 teeth, but what else does it have? Teal fur. It also has teal fur, and we see some purple hair. And so, Munsters, that is what we're doing when we fill out the 3 main circles of our Venn diagram. And this one looks a little bit different. I'm sure you noticed that we have a few more circles going on than we did in the previous problems. And so we're going to get started. And what I want to explain to you is that The sections that we have added on now are comparing two specific Munsters. And so we're looking at 3 Munsters overall, but the smaller sections that we now have are for just 2 Munsters. So let's start by looking at the pink and yellow-green Munster. What do just those 2 Munsters have in common? So from the word bank, I pulled that they both have the same number of teeth. They both have 2 teeth. And so that's what the top part of my Venn diagram is filled out as. Now let's look down, and we're comparing our pink Munster and our teal Munster. Just those 2 Munsters. And what do they have in common with each other? So this is the next smaller section of the middle comparing part. They both have hair on the center of their head. They both have hair on the center of their head. And so now we have one more section to fill out, Munsters, and that section is for the yellow-green Munster and the teal Munster. So I'm going to give you a few seconds. Check your work. They have something in common, and it is ears. Both of these Munsters have ears. So that is problem 3, and I know that one was a little bit tricky, but now you have practiced a Venn diagram comparing 3 different things and 2 different things. So we're going to move on to problem number 4. Here we are now, Munsters, problem 4 out of 5. And so this section, we are not making a Venn diagram, we are matching. And so you are matching the Munster on the left to the description that best fits it on the right side. So let's look at the first part of this question. For our pink Munster, what is the best description to match it with? Polka dots. This Munster has polka dots. So you're going to make sure that your pink Munster has a line to the polka dots on the right side. Orange hair. This Munster has orange hair. Now we only have one more Munster to match, and it is the teal Munster. And I know you guys are probably thinking that the teal Munster has 5 teeth. And you're right, it has 5 teeth. So Munsters, that is the matching section. And now we're going to move on to our last section, section 5, question and problem 5. Here we are, Munsters, the last problem, problem number 5. And so this section of problems is asking you to answer true or false to the statement. And so that first statement is false. It is false. The yellow-green Munster, it doesn't have purple hands, so that should have a false beside it. The next part, the next question, is true. That statement is true. I'm going to give you a second to look at it. The pink Munster has 2 teeth. Exactly. And the final part of this question is false. It is false. And let's look at the picture. And let's see. Does the teal Munster have a hair bow? No. And so that is why this question is false. So Munsters, I hope that you have enjoyed going through this worksheet together. Remember to follow along for our next video, and I hope you have enjoyed learning about comparing and contrasting. Don't forget to like this video if you liked what you watched in the video, and subscribe to the channel for updates, and follow us on social media. Can't wait to see you guys soon. Bye, Munsters!